So let's talk about making agreements or getting agreement in relationship. Here's a little story that is one that I think is really pertinent that was given to me by an accountability teacher named Jay Fazette. And we were in a class and he was sort of talking about a scenario where he had been standing in his kitchen with his mom, and one of his sisters had just bought a farm. And his mom was calling his sister to tell her, you know, we're so happy for you, and we're so excited, and we will do anything. We'll come cut the grass, we'll milk the cows, anything you need, we would be happy to show up and support you. We just are really happy that your dreams come through. And then she hangs up. And on his way home, he stops at his sister's house. And his sister says, oh my God, you're never going to believe. Mom called. She doesn't think we're going to be able to do this. She's going to have to come and cut the grass. She's going to come and have to milk the cows. She honestly doesn't believe in us, and she's not good. She thinks we're going to need so much help to do this. And he was kind of stunned because he had been in the room for the first conversation. So part of what I want to share with you is everything you are processing is starting to snow. Everything you are processing is going through the filter of every experience you've already had. Now think about that. It's like you're holding up a screen door full of all of your beliefs. And everything that you hear gets filtered through either I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I can't do this right, I'm not good at relationship. That filter is screening everything that's coming into you. So if we don't take a moment to look at what our belief system is about relationships, you know, it's hard to shift our behavior. And so if you don't get agreement from the person that you want to work with, that you'd like to have a different experience of relationship, what I can guarantee is they're going to hold up the old filter of how you function in relationship with them, and they're not going to be able to hear the shift or experience the shift. So part of why I've decided to put these videos on YouTube instead of on Facebook is that Facebook seems to be censoring things right now. And I can't guarantee that the content is going to stay up. And also you'd have to scan all the way back through everything I've ever done to be able to find it. I want you to have ongoing access to these videos, because anyone that you would like to practice the shift with in your life needs to sit down and watch these videos with you so that they understand what you're trying to do. And they're working and using the same language that you are, and actually understanding that you're trying to enrich the relationship and be able to hear them better. And that's a huge piece. So please make sure that you get agreement from the person you would like to work with. And I'm going to tell you, this will work with your primary partner. It'll work with your kids. It'll work with your parents. It'll work with your friends. But you must first get agreement. The other piece that I'd like to talk about a little bit when we talk about blame is that when we walk around and react in the world, we want to blame other people for how we're feeling. And the truth is that we are 100% responsible for how we feel. So an event is neutral. The energy that I bring to that event is what decides whether it's a positive or a negative event for me. I either approach it and decide that I'm going to be frustrated and angry and in resistance, or I approach it from a space of, you know, I believe I'm actually co-creating this in my life and that I get to actually learn something from this process. It isn't happening to me, it's happening through me. And it's no different with relationships. So we are mainly beings walking around with a whole bunch of undigested emotional experiences, because let's be honest, we have a lot to cope with down here, and most of us aren't very well sort of equipped in terms of our own awareness. We're learning as we're going. And so we have lots of situations that we are misinterpreting, or, you know, carrying around old hurts that we didn't really want to look at because it felt quite painful to look at that at the time. I sort of diagram that as though we're walking around in hazmat suits, which is kind of appropriate during COVID. And if you stuck a bunch of little orange dots all over that hazmat suit, like landmines, those are all of the emotionally undigested experiences that you've had that you thought were actually about you being wrong, something being wrong with you. And we hide those. We don't want to share those with the world because it's tremendously frightening to think that the rest of the world might actually discover that we're not okay. Now, if you imagine that, imagine 7 billion people walking around with suits that are made of landmines. We are going to trigger each other. And we act like that's a bad thing. We act like somehow people are purposely trying to piss us off all the time, that they can't be in relationship with us because they don't do it right. This is the most important concept I'm going to share in the shift, is that you are a being that is working on yourself, and your entire journey and process here is first to collect those landmines. And then when you wake up and you realize that there's a shift happening, your goal then is to understand that relationship is the most important experience here on earth. We are given a relationship so that we can see ourselves. And those of you that know me and who have listened to other things that I teach a concept called mirroring. And that is that we get to see our own energy outside us in the people around us. If I'm witnessing harshness outside, I'm probably being harsh with myself. I can't see what's going on inside me, so I project my view of the world onto the outside world. And that's how I process the world. So if that's true, everything I'm watching around me is an opportunity to see my own energy. The goal in my experience is to become fully self-loving, fully self-aware, and fully self-compassionate. Because when I can offer that to myself, I can also offer it to you. And the beautiful piece of that is the first half of my life, I gather the experiences that I then will have the tools in the second half of my life to begin to navigate and heal. And often the person you choose as your primary partner is your most clear mirror. They are the person who is able to trigger you the most. It could be a parent. It could be your own child. But the beauty of it is that they're not doing it to piss you off. Their goal, their unconscious goal, their soul contract with you is that I will trip a few of these landmines. And at some point, we're going to wake up a teacher, 3 a.m. in the morning, and she's going to share what this process is about so that you can actually understand the gift that you've been given. And the gift is that in triggering us, they are actually reawakening old, unhealed energy that we can't get to any other way. This whole suit is hard for us to see. I mean, honest to God, there's landmines under the back of my legs. There's stuff that I've forgotten about energetically that I can't actually access by myself. It's buried deep. Think about this. If you have someone die and you're busy at work and you can't cry and you think, okay, I'll cry about that later. I'll just get through the day. I can guarantee that when you get home, you can't get back to that emotion. You've buried it, it's somewhere in your tissues, and you can't actually access it again. So the idea is that we start to be aware that the triggers that we're receiving in relationships are gifts. I'm going to stop now because my battery is low. I'm going to go plug in and we'll do the rest of this inside.